I need you to stop what you're doing right now. Because BTS just performed in London 2 nights ago, July 6th and 7th, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, 63,000 people a night, and while everyone is still processing the entire show, there is one specific moment between Jimin and Jungkook that has been replayed so many times in the last 24 hours that I physically cannot keep up with the number of people sending it to me, saying the exact same thing. Did you see this? Are you okay? Because I am absolutely not okay. So no, I am not okay. Let's talk about it. First, let me set the scene, because context here is everything. This was not just any BTS concert. This was the London leg of the ARIRANG World Tour, BTS's first UK shows in 7 years. The last time Jimin and Jungkook stood on a UK stage together was Wembley 2019. And then everything happened. Pandemic, military service, 4 years where all 7 of them were doing their own thing, their own solo chapters, and every single army worldwide was sitting there quietly, asking the same question, when are we going to see them together again? And then ARIRANG happened, and London was the moment. Both nights sold out in 30 minutes. 30. The London eye turned red for them. There were K-pop boats on the Thames. London didn't just host BTS. London became BTS for an entire week. So picture walking into Tottenham Hotspur Stadium knowing all of that. 63,000 people carrying 7 years of waiting in their chests. All of them in that room at the same time. The energy before the show even started was already something that people who were there are struggling to put into words. And then Jimin and Jungkook walked out. Now, I want to talk about how these two showed up to London individually before I get to the moment. Because what happened between them on that stage makes a lot more sense when you understand the headspace each of them was in walking into that night. Let's start with Jimin, because the way he showed up to this London leg was operating on a completely different frequency from everything else happening around him. Billboard described his look as, and I'm quoting directly because there's no way I could say this better, somewhere between a Farrah Fawcett shag and David Bowie's labyrinth mullet. And look, I know that sounds absolutely unhinged, but the second you see it, you understand exactly what they mean, because it works in a way that genuinely defies explanation. Jimin has been changing his hairstyle at every single ARIRANG tour. Stopped braided with hair ring pins in Brussels on night 1, loose waves on night 2, and then he arrives in London, and Billboard calls it peak strength, Samson-esque in their power. Every headbang, every turn on stage, every single time that hair moved with him, 63,000 people reacted like they'd never seen anything like it. Because honestly, they hadn't. But here's the thing about Jimin at this show that matters more than any of the aesthetics. He was present. Like, genuinely, deeply, fully present, in a way that you could feel even through shaky fan-recorded footage. At one point, during the crowd interaction segment, he just walked across the stage and asked ARMY straight up, no script, I want to hear more from ARMY. What do you want to sing? And then he stood there, mic in hand, listening to 63,000 people shout requests at him. 21st Century Girl, Pied Piper, just one day. And he just took all of it in, with this expression on his face like he was genuinely trying to absorb every single voice in that stadium at once. That is not a performer running through a show. That's someone who loves every person in that room and needs them to know it. And then there's Jungkook. If you've been following the ARIRANG tour at all, you already know that Jungkook has been carrying a lot emotionally at basically every stop. Brussels was particularly heavy. The surprise song segment landed on For Youth, which bleeds into epilogue Young Forever. And the footage of Jungkook in that moment spread everywhere. He knelt on the stage. He bowed to the audience. He sat down and looked out at the crowd and just mouthed the lyrics with this expression that is genuinely hard to watch without feeling something break open a little in your chest. And then the next day, he posted on Instagram, "Wow, we really shone back then, didn't we? It's such a precious feeling. Thank you so much, ARMY." That's it. That's the whole post. And I don't think there is a single person in this fandom who read that and didn't completely fall apart. So Jungkook comes into London already wide open, already raw in a way that Brussels had pulled up to the surface. and 63,000 people in Tottenham, people who had waited 7 years. People who had the kind of energy that Jungkook himself described from the stage as, "They say London is famous for the rain, but tonight, you guys are bringing all the heat." That is the room he walked into. That is the energy he was carrying when the moment happened. Now, here it is. The moment this whole video exists for. It happens during Please. If you need a refresher, Please is not a hype song. It is not a banger. It's the song in the ARIRANG setlist that strips everything away and leaves you with something quiet and real, and almost uncomfortably honest. And when it started in London, the entire stadium shifted. You can hear it in every single fan recording. The energy changed. The crowd got quieter, the lights went softer, and something settled into the room that felt like 63,000 people simultaneously deciding to just feel whatever they were feeling without fighting it. And in the middle of that song, during what fans are now calling the whisper section, Jimin leans toward Jungkook. And Jungkook leans back. And they are close enough that whatever Jimin says, only Jungkook can hear it. And the camera, a fan camera in the stands, completely unplanned, completely accidental, catches Jungkook's face in the exact second it happens. I'm going to need you to look up this clip if you haven't already, but I'll try to describe it. Jungkook's expression does about 5 different things in 3 seconds. First, there's this flash of surprise, like he wasn't expecting Jimin to say something right at that moment. Then something in his face softens completely. His eyes change, and then he smiles. And I need to be very specific. Here it is not a stage smile. It is not a performance smile. It is the kind of smile that only happens when something catches you completely off guard in the best possible way. When your face does something before your brain even decides to react. And then he looks out at the crowd, and back at Jimin, and then back out at the crowd again, and you can see him holding something, processing something. Whatever Jimin just said went somewhere deep. The clip is 6 seconds long. 6 seconds, and it crashed the account that originally posted it within 2 hours from the traffic alone. Nobody knows what Jimin said. And that is precisely why this moment has taken over every corner of the internet since it happened. Because the unknown is doing all the work. Every single person watching that clip fills in the blank with something that feels true to them. Some fans are saying Jimin reminded Jungkook of a specific memory from Wembley 2019, the last time they were on a UK stage together, 7 years ago. Some people are saying he pointed out a specific section of the crowd that was doing something. And some people, and this one gets me every single time I read it, are saying that Jimin just said his name. Just said Jungkook. Nothing else. Just his name. And that was enough to make Jungkook's entire face do what it did. I don't know which one is right. But here's the thing, it almost doesn't matter. Because what the clip captures is not the words. It's the trust. The shorthand. The fact that these two people have spent 13 years on stages together, through everything, and there is still something that passes between them, that 63,000 people in a stadium can feel even without being close enough to hear it. And then, after Please ends, this is the part that I think is actually even more gut-punching than the whisper, and that is saying something. They're standing at the edge of the stage side by side. Jungkook is looking out at the crowd, 63,000 lights moving in the dark. And Jimin turns, not toward the crowd, toward Jungkook, and he just looks at him for a long moment, and Jungkook turns and catches him looking, and instead of looking away, instead of laughing it off or turning back to the audience, they hold it. Just the two of them, on this stage in front of 63,000 people, and somehow in that few seconds, it looks like there is no one else in the building at all. The crowd catches it. You can hear it happening in real time on every recording. This wave of reaction rolling through 63,000 people who all clock the same thing at the same moment. It's not a scream. It's something more complicated than a scream. It's the sound of an enormous crowd recognizing something real when they see it, and not knowing what else to do with that feeling except make noise. I've watched probably 40 different fan recordings of this show now, from every angle of the stadium. And I keep coming back to the same thing. Jimin and Jungkook have shared stages for 13 years. They have done thousands of performances. They have stood next to each other through every high and every low and every moment of this completely extraordinary, completely insane journey, that has been their career. And yet, 6 seconds. A whisper nobody else could hear. And then a look that 63,000 people witnessed and still couldn't fully explain. That's what keeps getting me. Not the production, not the fireworks, which were genuinely incredible. A 360-degree display over North London at the end of the night that looked like something out of a film. Not even the set lists or the surprise songs or any of the stuff that goes into making a show this scale happen. What keeps getting me is the 6 seconds, the whisper, the look that came after. Because that stuff that isn't in the production budget, that isn't on the set list, that isn't something that gets planned in a production meeting. That's 13 years. That's everything they've been through. Together debut, peak, pandemic, military, comeback. Compressed into a moment that lasted less time than it takes to read this sentence. And 63,000 people felt it in real time. And now millions more are feeling it through their screens. That is what Jimin and Jungkook do. That has always been what they do. Not just the performances, not just the vocals, not just the incredible, borderline, unfair level of talent that both of them carry on stage every single night. It's the moments that happen between the moments, the unplanned ones. The ones that show up in 6-second clips from fan cameras in the upper deck that were never supposed to go viral. Those are the ones that stay. Those are the ones people are still re-watching years later. And those are the ones that remind every single person watching from inside that stadium or through a phone screen at midnight on the other side of the world exactly why they fell in love with these two in the first place. London didn't just get a concert. London got a Jimin and Jungkook moment, and honestly, we all did.